I'm going to bring up what we did last time, and then what we'll do is we'll just add a couple more things to it. So I think I saved the script from last time. Okay. So we either do this or take a nap. You have a choice. Nap sounds good, actually. So this is what we did last time. First of all, we created the database with a login test. You wouldn't have to create a separate database generally. These could be part of any database. The good thing about these, I guess, is if you wanted to add these tables to any database, you could. So I have a security question, so they can answer one or more security questions. We have their user login, and I put more information than I usually do. But I think it's actually good to have user date entered, user date last modified. The password here is just the binary one. We're not storing the plain text one, which I do in class sometimes because otherwise you have to remember what the password was. So I'm gonna, that's where the user answers the security question. There's a login history. I added a couple of silly questions. We have a function. This function actually does the hash. And we talked about it a little bit. I'm just reviewing because it's been feels like a week. It takes in their password and a random int, and it combines them. And then hash bytes is the built-in function that will hash any text. This tells you what hash you're using. And there are about a dozen you have a choice of. How do you know which ones? You pretty well have to go to documentation and help to figure out which ones are available. This is the newest and most extensive hash. And then that combined is just the character string that with the password and the number. So whatever you put, the first argument for hash bytes is what hashing you're using, and the second is the string you want to hash.
What do you do if you want to ever change that? Like, what if there's one that's more up to date or that one person?
See, that is actually an issue because, yeah, because they do get broken. You know, you would have to go through and like update all of the, you know, and you could probably in a program do that with a loop. You could go through and update all the hashes with the new protocol. Or you could do it as they log in.
And just keep two separate tables, kind of.
Well, there's one of the things you could do with, so yeah, you'd probably, well, actually, so on the client side, all they need is the password and username. So if you rehashed everything, as long as it still hashes properly, you know what I mean? You would need their plain password, which you don't have. Yeah. So you'd probably have to just, every person as they logged in, you would rehash. Yeah. You would, well, I'm not sure if I've ever seen this where it makes you redo a login. You know, we are updating our security. Banks do that sometimes, but I don't know if it's for hashes, so it's usually for more security questions.
Mm-hmm.
Although they could fake it that way, just make you answer more security questions and then rehash it. That's actually a good question. I'm not sure because, yeah, the old hash as is unchangeable, but it is possible that these get broken.
I mean, I think about where I really might be compromised.
Right, so would you please change? Google has done that and Yahoo has done that, I know. Now Google tells me every time I log in from a machine. That's not.
Yeah, it gets close to my phone.
Yeah. So yeah, these do, as I said, they do eventually get compromised. So I guess you could have when they log in, you could write a little routine, I suppose, that when they log in, if you're changing the hash, first you match it to the old hash. And then if it matches, then write the new hash. Does that make sense? That wouldn't be too hard a routine to do. But it wouldn't protect the people that don't log in and then they're, you know,
Give them 2 weeks and then go on and change the password.
yeah.
Try to remember.
But actually, so one of the problems with the whole, actually, that's not what I want. I'm just looking for my, there it is, login test. One of the problems with the whole hashing thing is, one, it takes a lot of network traffic because you have to, in order to match the hash from the client, you have to go retrieve the hash and you have to retrieve the integer or whatever number you're using to combine it. So there's a lot of back and forth to do this kind of login. So network traffic is a problem. Security, it's more secure than just storing a plain password, but it's still pretty easy to compromise. You know, they're trying to come up with different security models. The security questions are a part of that. They're annoying, especially when you answer something that you have trouble remembering. Like, what was your favorite movie? Well, it depends on what day of the week it is. You know. The credit union always asks me, what is my favorite place, vacation place? Yeah. And I listed one, but it is no longer, I mean, it's gone downhill a lot since I said it was. Okay. So that's what we did. The other thing we did is a real simple get number, and this could probably be improved too. It will not allow a random inside of a function, and I do not know why. I was reading, I was trying to figure out that. But there's something about that kind of function doesn't work inside of another function. So I took the nanosecond, but the nanosecond, although it does return a random string, only the first 3 numbers are random, the rest are just zeros. So there's probably a better way to do that. You could do something more complex. You could get the instead of just the nanosecond, you could do a concatenation here or something with the minute, second, millisecond, nanosecond, and you could create a long string that would be relatively unique. In fact, it would be pretty unique. So you could make this function a little more complex for the salt. There's other ways to generate a salt too. And I think that in the, in fact, I know in SQL Server, you can also generate a GUID. Those are basically long strings of letters and numbers that look a lot like the keys that you get when you have to register something. So you could generate one of those and concatenate it too. And they're supposedly random. To me, I'm not sure how they guarantee that they never create the same one twice. Okay, so then we did our login. This is the new login. So the first time they log in, we basically just take their information, username, password, the email, security question, and the answer for that. And we declared a few internal variables, so integer, the hash, the date. We get the random number. We get the hash. And then we basically just insert it into login, into user, user login. And we get the user key from the user login. Then we insert into security question and insert into login history. And I did that in a try catch and transaction, so they all happen or none happen. I did not, you know, we didn't do anything to keep. That's a security question, so that's not what I want. I don't think we did anything to keep this from happening twice, did we? Yeah, something we probably should have done in there was to check to see if they exist. Yeah, because you can record it twice. Now it has different passwords too. I think that would be very confusing for a computer later. Since we went by username. So there's a couple of things that you should probably do that we didn't do. We should make usernames unique. And we should check to see if people are in there. Do you want to, so I'm going to delete that second one, but oops, sorry. Should we add a thing to that to keep you from? Oh, and I can't delete it unless I delete it from all the other places. So I need to do from user security set question. Where user key equals 2. 2. And I need to delete from login history. So now I should be able to do all 3 of those. Okay, so I got rid of my duplicate, but we should prevent that from happening. So I am going to where do we want to do this in this upper one? Let's do it right before we start getting the random number and all of that. And what I'm going to do is check to see if the user exists. And I'm going to, if exists, select, do we want to do username and email? We could actually just do select. Star is always a problem. So from user login, where user name equals at username, and user email equals at user email. Okay, so if that exists, what do we want to do? Just end? I mean, just get rid of it?
I'm going to return a -1 if the application comes over. They are-
All right, so I'm going to do print, and then we'll return a -1. User already exists, which is what the application would do when it sees -1, right?
Yeah.
Or we could return the current seed. So if we alter this and add that little part, it should, when we try to enter the person again, cease not do it. Where am I? Alter, begin. I think that's it. All right, so I'm going to try, I'm just hoping I didn't include a lot of extra stuff. Oh, that was the login. I need to go up to the, did the wrong one. My things are so big, it is really hard to tell. It's all right, because what I put in, I think, was, I want to go to end catch. All right, now when I do this part, it should tell me the user already exists. So and it didn't insert it. One of the things, if you're doing this for real, you probably don't want to do it on a operating machine database, because you're going to put a bunch of bad garbage in there while you test these things. Did yours work okay? So what I did, and I'll print this, this is the part I added. If exists, and I did it before we did anything, before we got the random and all of that, right after the declarations, although it could go before the declarations if you want. It just needs to be before we do the other stuff. So basically I just selected something, the user key makes sense, from user login where username equals @username and user email equals @user email. So you can check to see if those things are the same. And if they are the same, then it prints user already exists, and then it says return -1. The return kills it. It doesn't do the rest of the store procedure after that.
Do you want to make, also the table to make user unique?
You could. I don't know if it'll allow. You could try. I mean, if you wanted to do up here when we create the table, I'm not going to recreate the table right now, but the way to do that would be that would be how you make them unique. I'm not going to do it. You'd have to do alter table added, but it may not allow you to make it unique in the alter table statement. Did it? Did you try?
It's not open. Right.
Which parentheses?
It's starting with the table.
It doesn't need a parentheses. Let me see. So if I do it, let's find that table again. So if I take them out of here, and do the alter tables right under it. alter table user login. Trying to think of what to name it. I actually don't remember doing this way. Actually, it seems to be happy with that. Let's see if it runs. Was yours like that? And you could do exactly the same thing with the email. That should make it unique as well. Okay. That actually, at that point, then it's still a good thing to check, because otherwise it's going to throw an error. But it's a good thing to check. Did yours work at that point? Those are just extras, but it would have been a good idea to make them unique. Sure. That looks fine.
It's still added it though. When I type it in again.
Yes, do a return.
Oh.
You don't have to necessarily return -1 like I did. You have to return. And the reason that means that when it sees return, that's the end of it. So you don't need to do this one, but you can just do the other one.
So just rerun them.
Just rerun
And
it.
all the way
To end finish. Now, if you run it again, it should just say.
Okay. But now when I try on it, I can't do it.
So you also have to delete the security question. Not the security question, the user security question.
Yeah, I did.
You did delete it.
Yeah, there's just the one.
So you also might need to delete it from the login history.
What? Oh,
So the unique is not necessarily, as I said, it just would have been a good idea, and since you guys asked about it, I did it. So where I put those, and it doesn't matter where in this script you put it. See if I can find my unique again. I did it right under the login table, but you could do it anywhere. As I said, it doesn't matter. This isn't critical to what we're doing. It would just protect the tables better. Do you have more than one data in it? All right. No, you don't have to delete that. So, let's look at what's in it. Yeah, so the reason why you can't do it is if there's any duplicate values already in there, they won't run the unique. Did it work? And you're not working? Did you drop the thing? So also table user login.
what do you mean?
So he just started at 8.
Yeah, the if statement and then the alter the table. Okay.
Well, the error message doesn't lead you to that. Okay, so we've got login. If you did delete everything, you should probably add a person back in. And then we had it basically where we could log in. So basically in the login, it just compares, it gets the user key, the random number, and the hashed password from user login, where the username equals username. And we could also do it for email too. You know, that might be a good thing. If the random is null, then that's when we say they don't exist. We create a new hash, and then we look to see if the two hashes match each other. If they do match each other, we right now we just return the user key so the program could see it. So when I try to log in, oh, so that gave me 0. Why? Because it's a capital P. I remember we changed that to see if it made the difference, right? Mm-hmm. So if I change it to a capital P, then I get 1. And it also writes a row to the login table history. So I should have 2 or 3 in login history now. Whoa, that's interesting.
What's over 3?
I've seen SQL do that before, SQL Server.
Why?
I don't know why it does that, where it jumps 1,000.
Oh, because
it's an auto number. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, but it's still weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't alter that table though. And I think, so the user key is still 1. I mean, we could add another user if we want. It might not hurt to add another user. Who do we want to be our second user? George. I was trying to remember if I ever knew anyone named George. And I did, actually. He was the crew boss at Gonzaga for the ground crew. Mm-hmm. Same question, but it'll be what kind of whiskey? All right, so that's not how you spell bourbon, is it? Yeah, I don't know how to spell bourbon. So let's just do whiskey general. All right, so I'm going to do that. So we should have it 3 of them now. So we have a second user. Notice, and I think you guys know this too, that it goes to 3. When you delete or have a failure on an auto number, that auto number never comes back. So it skips to the one beyond it. And that is fine. It drives some people nuts. They really want it to go 1, 2, 3. But it's for security, for relational integrity, not to repeat those numbers again.
So that's the limits on the weighted, so take a break. natural DW versus regular.
Oh, yeah. Are you doing the SSIS or are you already
Do the
created?
SSAs.
So you're doing the analysis?
Right. So you guys basically built the star schema.
Right. Did you do that one? Or no. Okay, so prior to it, we built the star schema.
Okay.
As I said, we can. So there might be a video before that one.
Is that a 4?
Okay.
Or is that a 4?
No, I did the video.
We just did the video, the YouTube video.
Okay.
Anyway, whatever, if you can't, I can help you. It's a fairly complicated process, that one. All right, so I think now after all of that review, let's just do, how do they change their password? So what would we need to do to change the password? Anybody? Any brilliant ideas? All right, so basically log in, and validate. Get new password. Rehash the password. And update the login table. Does that sound right? Log in and validate, make sure that they're the right person. Get their new password. And then rehash the password. Now you could do this I'm going to just assume at the top that they're going to put in their username, their old password, and the new password. Well, you would in the form, but I don't think you would in the database thing, because once you validate it on the form that they match, you just pass one of them. So let's do create. Oops, I'm still. So create proc or procedure if you prefer, USP, change password. And what we want to do is their at username in varchar 50, I believe. So old password. Actually, there shouldn't be any parens there. At old password. Did I have them as in varchar 50 or what? Does anybody remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then new password. And then as. Oh, and I got in varchar spelled very weirdly. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is take their old username and old password and log them in, basically. So I'm going to do that as kind of a if statement. So if, I guess I will do, how do I want to do this? I guess we take their old password. We don't have to do an if yet. We can wait until the match. In the login, basically we want to do a lot like the login. I wonder if we could call it. I'm curious if we could just call the login. Pass the call USB login there. Save us from rewriting it.
For the declares.
Well, so what I was thinking is we could do as I'm going to declare at result. Let's call it login result. All right, so equals USP login. I don't know if we need DBO in here. We might need DBO. And basically, what are the arguments for the login? In order, that's the new login. Let's see. Is that just login? Password and username. So username and old password. All right, let's get rid of DBO. So I'm not sure if it'll work. Did I call it USP and login? Yes. Oh, you know what? It wouldn't be equal. Well, maybe. I'm trying to get the return statement from the login. So this is something I've never tried to do before, so we'll see how it works. It doesn't like that. I am going to real quickly Google it to see if it's possible. If it's not, we'll move on to just rewriting the login logic. Ah, okay. I think I got it. Still doesn't like it. That's what I did. That should work. Why is it not? Oh,
But the one I saw was she's got this.
it doesn't like old password. So let's change it to just password. Yes, it does get those actually. Um, I think it wants an actual value, string value there, and I can't actually do that. Which is sort of too bad because it'd be nice if we could just use the existing function. This is the last thing I'll, oops. All right, that isn't exactly. Let's not worry about it right now. I will play with that later. So basically what we just need is we can still use what's here in that we can copy pretty much all of this stuff in here. So I basically copied the body of the login. So basically inside where are we? Yeah, I need to find where create proc user change password. We got your username, password, and new password.
Mhm.
And then I did int random, new hash, db hash, user key. And then basically we select all those things from the username. And then if what we'll do is if it's null, we'll still return that 0. So if they don't exist, we'll kill it at that point, right? If they do exist, we'll get the new hash, and then we will see if the two hashes match. So we hashed it again. We check to see if the hashes match. If they match, this is where we're going to change things, right? So if it matches, we might still do the insert into the login, but before we do that, we'll do update user login. Except before we do that, we have to get the brand new hash, right? So if these match, then what we want to do is pass the function. So we need to declare, can't call it new hash. What do we want to call it? There's db hash and new hash. New hash would make more sense here. Update hash, whatever we want to call it, as var binary. And then we'll set at update hash. I'll walk through this in a second. Is equal to dbo dot hash password. I suppose we need to get a new random too, right? Think we should have a new random too.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Declare at new random int, and we can say set at new random equals dbo dot get random int. So hash, and this takes the password and then the random int. So at new password at new random. Okay, now we can do the update. So we set user random int equals at new random. And a comma there at our user random, and then the user password equals at update hash where user, and we got the user key somewhere in here. Yeah, I think we got the user key. I don't want to screw this up if we do. All right, so the parts, do you want me to walk through all of that? Maybe. Let me scrunch this down, get as much of this on screen as I can. So this gets really kind of complicated. This is all for changing the password. The first thing they do is they get the username and old password, and then they get the new password, right? So those come in from the user. We've got, we declare random and a new hash and a database hash and a user key, because this is basically just the login. I still think there's probably a way to get the login to work so we don't have to repeat the code, but I didn't want to waste more time searching it. So we're just doing the login, and I pretty much just copied it. So once we do that, we get the user key, the random number, and the database hash from the database where the username is equal to username. If the random is null, we just print a -1 and we return, and we're out of there. That means that they don't exist, right? They don't, they're not in the database, so we just abort at that point. If they do exist, because this is only if they don't, we get we hash the new password, right? Or we create a new hash on their old password. Okay, we're still checking to see if they're the right person. And then we match the two. If they match, and only if they match, then we declare the new random and get that number from them using the function. We declare the new hash and get that using the new password. So now they have a new password and a new random number. We update the table to enter the new numbers, right? So we're entering their new random number and their new password. And then we will still insert into the login table, login history table. And it should output their user key still, or nothing if there's no user key. Let's see if that works. It's a bit complicated. As I said, it would have been a little simpler if we could have just used the login. And I'm sure there's a way to do it. Mine completed successfully. I realized that that was a very chaotic way to do it, so yours may not. How many completed successfully? Okay. With the if part?
At the update user login.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And again, it's not an assignment, so just yeah. I am recording it, and I will post all the code on the blog. Actually, I think it could be really useful if you're doing databases to have this kind of logic in them just to protect things. Are you guys with it, sorta? Or do you need more? Need it down a little further? So what was confusing is, it's always confusing to cut and paste. And so when I cut and paste it from the login, you know, as I said, I was hoping I could just refer to it and not have to repeat the code. We haven't tried it yet. So I'm going to select again star from user login. We didn't make them answer a security question. We probably should have, but we'll leave it at no. So who do we want to change? guess SP Conger. So I'm going to do exec USP change password. And we need to do the 3 parameters. Real trick is you can do, I'm going to refresh programmability. Actually, maybe just refresh stored procedures. And you can just drag the parameters up. Same way you can drag fields, just drag the folder. Username equals SP Conger. So the password needs to change. Actually, this is the old password. This needs to be the right one. Password 1. What should our new password be? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so let's do, I'm going to do that. Okay, so it returned the user thing as 1. 2 rows are affected, which is right. So when I select from user, you really can't tell the difference, but it should be a different hash. Let's log in. I'm going to just log in, copy this down here so it's sort of in this script in the right place, just to see if the new one works. So this one shouldn't work anymore. And it didn't. It returned a 0. But if I turn it to 2, it should log in. And it did. So the change password seems to have worked. Did yours?
Why can't I put in both?
Did you do DBO in front of it?
Yeah. What did I spell?
So,
Actually, so does it work?
right, so basically one of these would have to be, so right now, this is a 4 section. So here's how.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So basically, that's an additional 50, but those would just go. So the question at this point is, oh, this is not too bad.
Part of it is that we called it actually, is that new hash? Yeah, it is a new hash. Just go up a little higher. We just did that. So
They're really
I
criminal.
think we do need.
I wish I could have done that. But here is just make it real quick.
Actually, I think you need to add. Now, are you changing the login? This is the for update.
Okay.
So this actually should be a different. Yeah, different. I call it USB change login. So I used, it has the login code in it, but way at the top. So it's change password.
Okay, so here on the bottom, okay, so have to take this.
Yeah.
Here.
So what happens, so it's change password, and then I have the username and password and the new password. And then from here on, quite a ways, it is the same as the login one. So the declares are the same as the login one, the select is the same. If int is random is the same as the login. And where I changed it is after this. If db hash equals new hash, so if they're valid, if it's a valid login, then what we do is we set up a new random number and a new hash and update the existing table. But before you can update it, you have to make sure that it's a valid login. So, and as I said, I'm sure it just would take a little bit of research on my part. I'm sure we could have used the login store procedure rather than write the code all over again. But so it did, in mine, it did change it. Okay, so sure. My naming may not be great either because I changed some things on the fly. Now these declares are identical to what's in the login one. Like new hash maybe should have been something different for this one because it makes more sense that the new hash is the new hash rather than the check hash, the one that's checking it. In this case, the new hash is what's checking the existing hash. You know, you rehash it. Maybe rehash should be a better name. Does that?
On the, when you're calling the function, I have a red line under my app.
So you did app password. And where down here on select new hash equals? Right here? I'll come look. Should be okay. If it exists up above, it should be okay there. You know where you do random in? Put parentheses after that. That's not above. App password, we have up above, we have, oh, not that far up. You have that old password and that new password. So I think at that point I would do that old password. I think we do. Yeah. So what I did down there is with the change password I put and get rid of the InVarCar stuff. I'll put a time on after. It's almost always a I think in years is called old password. So, do you have a username GGG? Let's get the quick select from restart the user and add it. GGG. But it doesn't, what's the old password now?
Typically, it was just password. So, yeah, so try to just password. Try to set that in so that you get on this one, so that person doesn't exist. So the GGT one does. Yeah, that works. So that's it. It's hard to tell if they're changed. Yeah. Right. Did you remind this one, so it's not fun.
Yeah, double check
No, like, is it a capital thing or like, is it?
double check here.
I know, but it's, alright, so let's look and see, yeah, what we do with class. So after we do this, I'm sure that it might be easier. If you just move this down.
Yeah. Oh, you can move it. I can just watch this one.
So right after this part, then there's this part I don't think you have. Select new hash.
Yeah, I have that.
Do you? And then if db hash equals new hash?
Yeah,
Ah, look different when I looked at it. Alright, let's look at it here.
yeah, I do that.
Oh, okay. So. if you have that use the random input, the random on the form. So we do.
Yeah, try that one.
Let's actually try it. Sure. No, it's not going to change.
Not the one I tried.
Maybe when we try something. The reason. I was thinking of it. The password will change.
Yeah.
And why, when I try to lock them up the other ways, I was just use it free. I'll try changing the other.
So part of it is where we're doing the searching. So let's look at the tile. Do you want the full room and everything? No, this is not. You know what? I don't think we searched the user. I think it is a Go up to the okay, so this select statement.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, all the way down to the put it, at the back, I think we get, all the.
These are the ones.
Yeah, we might have to.
Oh.
do it. We need to. You can have it from using we weren't finding the time, so the same.
I think that's enough for today, unless you guys want to do another one. I will post these. The only one that would be left, and you could do it on your own sometime, is if somebody lost their password. So generally you don't, with a hash, there's no retrieval. You just let them do a new password. So, yeah, and make them answer their security question. Yeah, or questions. Well, the hashes are what we're comparing, right? Oh, it shouldn't be. It depends on the database rules. So you can make it case sensitive, but generally it's not. So, or, if you're really worried about it, there are functions in there where you can turn it all uppercase, all lowercase, make sure it matches. Okay, so I'll put on the blog, I'll post this, and then I might quit taping right now, and then I'll post it.